evening, everyone. I'm Camille Nash, and welcome to the Bullpen. Listen, we are back for season 2, and if it's your first time joining us, here in the Bullpen, we talk everything media, ministry, money, and the marketplace. Now, if you've been on this ship with me, if you've been with me on this journey for any length of time, you already know that I have an affinity for whales. Now, I would love to tell you that it was birthed out of some story where you could hear the melodic violins playing in the background. But no, it was not that. And in good godly fashion, God would show me how to take those lemons and turn them into lemonade. Now, during the pandemic, the world calls it that. I like to call it the plandemic. You all catch that, maybe catch that Tuesday. During the pandemic, I sat in a lot of rooms, courtrooms, boardrooms, and tons of social media rooms. And I got to tell you, I really got tired of hearing men attempt to tell women how to live their lives and women attempting to tell men how to live their lives. So I decided, why not create a space where I could invite men to come in and allow men to hear from other men what it takes to really live a life that is whole, healthy, alive, and not only surviving, but thriving. And so, because tonight we're going to be talking all about meaningful relationships for this entire season, tonight's special conversation is really more or less around the importance of building bridges, building bonds, and establishing boundaries with success. And there's a gentleman that I met, I can't believe it's almost 10 years ago now. And I just love the way that he carries himself. He makes sure that he has fun in life. And at the same time, I'm really just blown away by some of the connections and some of the people that he is not only connected to, but that he has built remarkable bonds and relationships with. And so, because during this whole season, we're talking about getting your ships in order. You all heard that, get your ships in order. I want to invite and share with you a gentleman that I know you will be not only blessed by, enamored by, but also encouraged by. So without further ado, allow me to bring to the platform, introduce to some, and present to others. That in the form of Grammy Award winner Ronald Jones. Let me welcome him to the platform, and you all celebrate him with me.
Hey,
Well, there he is,
woo,
Ronnie.
big intro. Hey,
Goodness, look, it's more to come. But listen, I'm so excited to see you. It's
oh, thank you.
you're never out of mind. I don't see you every week like I did at one time. But I'm just really excited about all that God is doing in your life right now,
Oh,
and I
thank you.
know that you have a tremendous story. So first, if you don't mind, for those folks that have been living under a rock, tell our audience a little bit about you and perhaps maybe what they should expect to hear from this conversation tonight.
Oh, wow. A little bit about me. Well, my name is Ronnie Jones. Um, I am originally born and raised in Texas, El Paso, Texas, and I
Okay.
moved out to Arizona about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, and kind of made it my home and raised my family here and met a lot of wonderful people. Was able to connect and build really some really long lasting, lifelong relationships with a lot of people here in town, as
Yeah.
well as doing work all over the country and a little bit in the world. So, been doing that and just been working and grinding for a long time now. So,
Mhm.
this is a little bit about me, and I kind of feel as if the grind is kind of just began. Even
Mm,
though I've been doing it a long time, I think I'm really about to open up now. So that's kind of how
wow.
I feel in my heart and in my spirit.
Well, when I hear you say that right away, all sorts of questions are jumping around for me. When you say that you're just getting started, we hear people say that sometimes when
Hmm.
they begin to walk into that, they find not only find their sweet spot, but really get nestled. I like to call
Right,
it nestling.
right.
And once they get nestled, they really are clear
Hmm.
about what it is that they're looking to do. And with us talking about meaningful relationships and getting our ships in order, when it comes to bridges for you,
Hmm.
you've been able to build bridges in ways that, like, unlike anybody I've seen, and you really can kind of stick and move in all circles.
Yeah.
What would when it comes to what you just said about nestling there, you're really walking into a great season of your life. What does that look like when it comes to building bridges?
Well, when it comes to building bridges and kind of settling into that sweet spot, I think you kind of have to look at it. For me, you just look at it as in kind of what you're really good at and kind of find purpose. And I think that's really what it boils down to is you
Mhm,
have to be aligned to really what God has for you.
mhm,
And a lot of times a lot of people don't know, but it's about finding who you are in Christ and who
mhm,
you are in God and finding that purpose for your life. And a lot of what that's tied to is not hard to kind of find if you really search. It'll be locked within your giftings and your talents and those things that you really have a pull in your heart to do.
mhm.
So for me, for forever, it's been music, an affinity for music, and a love and a gifting to do music in a variety of ways, and that kind of just spilled over in building when we're talking about building community and building bridges within the community. It spilled over to a bit of the technology side of
Mm,
music. The technical side of the music and which I really like probably equally as well as doing the music. So I've been able to form many great relationships over the years in the music industry, on the technical side as well as the front side, which would be more, your artists, your musicians, things of that nature. We call it kind of in front of the screen and behind the screen. So I've been very fortunate to do that over the course of many years.
yeah, I love that you said that. I think that's a term in media, period, because we all use that behind the
Hmm.
scenes,
Hmm.
in front of the camera,
Hmm.
behind the camera. How did you come to get to the space in music? Are you from a music family? Has music been in your life your whole life? Did somebody put a instrument in your hand, or how did you discover music, or how did music find you?
It's really interesting how I discovered music. I didn't really come from a big musical family. I came from a family that definitely appreciated music, but my mother and father are not technically musically inclined. Um, I I would say I have an uncle who was a professional drummer, my dad's brother, but I didn't have a lot of contact with him. He lived in Indianapolis, and I, of course, lived in Texas. But other than that, I really didn't have musicians in my family.
Wow.
My mother went to church all the time, and my dad, went every so often. But I guess I just picked up music and just had a love for it from being in the church and growing up in church. And my mother was one of the choir directors.
Oh wow.
But other than that, I mean, it was pretty much the Lord that was like, hey, I want to do something special with him through music. Um,
Wow.
but it wasn't. I wish I had somebody in the family I could glean from,
Yeah.
but I ended up just gleaning from everybody, anybody, and anything and everybody I can attach myself to. That's what I was doing. I was grew up on a pew. I sat next to the drums, and boy, don't let anything happen. Somebody slide off the drums, drop a drumstick. I'm trying to get on. That's what I was doing, and I grew up in a time where I had older friends that were also musically inclined, so
Yeah.
it was
Mhm.
really easy to gravitate and to grow in music at the
Yeah.
church I came from. So it was a
Mhm.
real blessing for me.
So I love that you said, "Let somebody drop a drumstick. It's all
Oh,
yours. You're
oh
getting in."
yeah, oh yes. Don't
It is.
drop no drumstick. I'm grabbing it and I know what to do.
That
I was trying to
explains
get on them drums.
that explains why you pretty much know how to play anything. I've seen you. I've seen you in service where you would be. I look up, you're on one instrument, then I look up and you're on another instrument. So most definitely,
Yes,
I look up and see you on one instrument, then you're somewhere else.
yeah. I have a kind of I would say a problem at doing that.
Mhm.
But I started on drums, and man, I grew up and just wanted to beat on everything, beat on my mom's pots and pans, beat on dishes, beat on furniture, and then once I really got good at it, I just say, "Oh, you play the bass." I'm playing there, playing the drums, looking at somebody else play bass, and
Right.
then looking at the guitar players and the keyboards, and I'm just absorbing it all.
Yeah.
And the absorb turned into, hey, can I play your bass? And then I would grab a bass and picked up the bass, started playing the bass, and
Yeah.
started playing the little guitar. And then when I finally jumped on keys, I put it in park there, and I just was like, yeah, this is
Listen.
the instrument for me. So
Listen.
that's
And
kind of how it came about.
and those keys found you and you found the keys. My goodness.
Yes,
And you're
yes,
remarkable at them. Now, you a few minutes ago you mentioned that you're coming into honing into really who you are. So I heard you
indeed.
say a lot about the technical side. I know a little bit about the technical side. Probably not as much as you, but I know a little bit. And
Mhm.
when you say that you're now nestling or settling into more of who you were called to be, what
Right.
does that look like when you say the technical side is, or your technical arm is getting very strong?
Well, growing up as a kid, I always thought I was going to be a professional drummer, and I was literally living to get as good as I can get to get on a professional gig, whatever that looked like.
Okay.
And as time grew, I got deep into ministry, and that kind of became a part of the landscape for my life.
Yeah.
And within that, in doing ministry, you have to tap into a lot of different things, whether it's working with different musicians, singers,
Mhm.
and at times it was working with the tech crews, sound guys. And during high school, I got really good at playing the piano, and I would get hired to do session work in these professional studios as a teenager. And when I went into these studios, I just had a love for hanging out with the producers and the engineers. I thought it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. They get to manipulate sounds and record, and I was like, "Oh, show me a little bit more of that." And by doing that, I was able to acquire some pretty phenomenal skills and add a lot of tools to my tool belt. And as I was growing musically, I was
Mhm.
growing just as much from a technical side. A lot of people in church don't really know that because, I mean, obviously, I would go from church to the studio right
Yeah.
after, but I was growing just as much. And I think that was just a part of, God's plan overall, to not only be able to create music, but to shape what that music kind of sounds like on the back end of it.
Well,
So,
you were saying concerning the technical side, what most people either don't know about you in church or that they don't
mhm,
do in church.
mhm. So, but yeah, basically, I was just growing up in a world where I was sharpening tools and growing as a musician, playing in church and doing a bunch of church services. But also, I was doing a ton of studio sessions. And
Yeah.
during that time, I was learning from audio engineers, producers, arrangers, and other musicians. But I was in that aspect, I was growing musically as well.
Mhm.
But I was really getting my hands involved on technical side, recording
Mhm.
and miking and placement and all the gear, compressors and EQs and oh yeah, and it kind of created a bad habit of loving gear, loving audio gear. So that's kind of a thing for me. I am what we call in the industry a gearhead. I just love
Mhm.
all kind of just old gear and different equipment. But yeah, I really studied and worked hard on my craft on the other side of the
Yeah.
technical side. So yeah,
Yeah. So so that means you have a ton of gear in your house. That's what
I
that means.
have I have so much
You
gear
probably have a storage room.
everywhere. Oh, I have a house full of gear, storage rooms full of gear, garage full of gear. I have storages just filled up, and I mean, I have a lot of gear, a lot of stuff.
My God. So when we talk about boundaries and we
Mhm,
talk about building bridges, even with our families, because music is, the entertainment industry, period, can be very
mhm.
tough. So
Indeed.
when it comes to building relationships and also keeping the ones that you have steady and strong, what is your knack for doing that? Like, what are some of the things that you do personally to ensure that those relationships stay strong?
Well, that's a very hard thing to do in this industry because, of course, when you're working at anything and are aiming to become good at it, you have to spend a lot of time, a lot of hours, just perfecting your craft.
Hmm.
And after you perfect your craft in this particular industry, you have to spend a lot of hours just doing, and that requires a lot of time away from the family. So there has been many moments in my life where I haven't balanced that well, and I don't think I've done the best job at kind of uh, balancing family and work life and church and all of those different dynamics.
Mm.
And you really have to be cognizant of it actually getting into this particular field. Uh, just because you can get swept away, you can get really caught up and so driven in trying to obtain and reach levels and reach goals that your family and the people that you love can become almost secondary because they're there. And you realize, oh, they're there. They'll be there. They're my family. They're not going anywhere. And while you're doing that, you're not properly depositing the things that you need to into your family, and you're not investing the way that you ultimately would. Um, so you really have to be cognizant of it and find a balance that works for you, that where you're giving of yourself in your craft as
Mhm.
well as you're giving of yourself. For me, it was also ministry and giving of yourself in this world where you're navigating with people that are in the professional field, but also you're giving back to yourself as well as your family just as much as you're giving to this career or ministry.
That's powerful. What advice would you give someone who's listening that is, I don't want to say maybe starting out, but maybe they have been on the journey for a while and they're not handling it well? The beauty, I believe, of life is that as we advance, as we grow, as we know more, as God reveals more to us, we're able then to, the goal should be to not keep it to ourselves, is to be able
Absolutely.
to make those
Absolutely.
deposits and seeds, deposit those seeds into other people. So those gentlemen or those men that might be listening right now, they're struggling with this. I mean, let's just keep it real. We talk straight here in the
Absolutely.
bullpen. They're struggling with it. What type of advice would you give them man to man?
Man to man, I would say, man, and actually, I think I've had these kind of conversations with other men, but it doesn't click until it clicks. And unfortunately, those clicking moments happen at times when you don't want, whether it's, the loss of a relationship or a breach of trust in those relationships. But man to man, I would say, what is most important to you? Really, what is most important to you in your life? And make those things first. It sounds simple, but it needs to be carried out just that simply. Just if your family's your most important thing, if God is your most, that should take priority, and nothing should get more time than that. And whereas we spend a lot of time working on our craft, and it's very demanding in this field. So you have to, like I said, you have to find the balance that works for you, but you have to really not only invest the time with your family and make those deposits for your family, but you also have to communicate um, what your goals are and what your desires are in life with your family, and make those decisions together with your family. Either with your significant other or your extended family, or those people that um, mean a lot to you. And I would just sit down and say, hey, what are those things? What are the priorities? And if those are the priorities, this is family and work and however you categorize them, then really make a conscious effort and be very intentional about the time that you spend building those relationships. Um, and there are times in life where your career is going to get more of your hours during the week or your hours during the day. But what are you doing to counteract that? And a lot of times I found that communication goes a long way. And I'm not the first one. I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not the greatest communicator when it comes to balancing that life.
Mhm.
But you have to try. You have to really make an effort to explain why you're pulling and spending so much time doing these things? Why are you spending so much time sitting at a piano? Why are you spending so much time at a rehearsal? Why are you spending so much time at these studios? And then you have to really speak to yourself and be, why am I spending so much time at the studio? Is it going to propel me or get me where I need to go? And it may, but in that instance, you may get far down the road, but what are you going to sacrifice, or what are you going to lose, or what are you going to damage while you're trying to get there? So those are all really questions that someone has to ask themselves objectively, and you just have to kind of be honest with that, and then try to, you know, when you make those answers and you figure out those decisions, you have to just kind of stay to it and really fight for the things that are important for you.
I love what you said about the fighting part, because Pastor Mackey, Terry Mackey, always talks about love being in every relationship. Listen,
Right.
understand, and validate. Not just the
Right.
love that we speak of, LOVE love, but
Right.
also the acronym to listen intently,
Yeah.
understand, and validate each other. Do you
Absolutely.
think that sometimes, I mean, I often hear women think that men don't have emotions, and we know that's not true. We know that's not true. But do you believe, you, because you said it, you brought it up. You said that sometimes you may not be the greatest communicator, but life
Mhm.
can teach us to do that. Uh,
Indeed.
we have a God that is very present, a very present help for us, but we have to communicate with God. So because we have to communicate with God and making sure that our relationship with God is in order, that vertical relationship, it is what soothes and satisfies every horizontal relationship, right?
Mhm.
So your son is a musician. I believe he's your eldest son. Now you might have to check me out on that. I don't know. I
He-
believe he's your namesake. What did you encourage him in finding music, or was it more of just a gradual, natural, organic decision for him?
um, well, that's yeah. Ronnie, his name is Ronnie. They call him Little Ronnie, but he's definitely Ronnie. It's spelled differently,
Yep.
and he has a different middle name. But he's actually my second son.
Okay.
He has an older brother.
Okay.
Um, but it kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
Him kind of falling into music, and I don't want to say falling because the whole time, years later down the road, but
Oh, right. Yeah, I've heard that.
that we'll let it be what it is. But I think it was an organic thing. The way that he got into music, it was he was watching the whole time. Your kids they are watching, and they will replay the things that they're shown. So it's very important. And the whole time, I didn't push him into music. I didn't want to push any of my children into music because I wanted them to gain the passion for themselves. Because I've seen countless times where parents have just forced and forced and forced and forced something on their children, and their children end up getting really good at the craft and doing well, but come to resent doing it just because that wasn't something that they deep down inside wanted to do. Of course, they like doing it, and especially when we're talking about music. I just thought it was important that they find music or find whatever passion they wanted to do for themselves.
Mhm.
So while they were growing up,
Yeah.
um, I was dragging them to rehearsals and dragging my kids to studio sessions, and Ronnie just kind of gravitated in his own way and picked up on it, and he got really good. And I just remember one little story. I was at church all day. I think it was like a Sunday, and all my kids, they were a little older, and they wanted to stay home. And reluctantly, I was like, okay, you guys can stay home or whatever. I came back home, and Ronnie and his older brother Xavier, they had 10 songs recorded on the computer. They had made the beats, they had wrote the songs, wrote the lyrics, they recorded all the vocals, they did their little mix downs and had a whole. And I sat up there and I was in shock and in awe of just the ingenuity of the kids and how they did that. And then just Ronnie, just from then on, I just saw exponential growth in his craft and the way he approached doing music. So and even when I saw that there was a real skill behind what he was doing, I didn't never push anything on him. I just would, you know, uh, get tools, place tools in his hands, so,
Mhm.
get him, computers and microphones and keyboards and just get him different things that would help him progress. But it was really on him to find it for himself and find that passion and find that gifting that was in him and unlock it for himself.
Yeah, how powerful is that though? That my goodness, 10 songs was really 10. My
No, it was a legit 10 songs. I couldn't believe it. I
wow.
was like, this is like a whole record. And there were different songs. There wasn't like add-ons to the last song. It was totally different. I said, how did you guys do it? I still don't, to this day, I don't know how they did that. One day I'm gonna find the picture, and I think I even have a video somewhere. But yeah, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. But then
That,
again, I can believe it because I mean, there's greatness locked inside of our children, and like I
yeah.
said before, they're watching all the time. And if you create an atmosphere that is welcoming and inviting for them to do the things that are on their heart, they can't help but to win.
I love what you said that kids replay what they see. Now that's a tweet
Absolutely.
or X, whatever they call it now,
Hmm.
but it's definitely a quote, a Ronnie quote. Because they
They do.
emulate what they see, not what they
Absolutely.
hear. They don't care how many
Absolutely.
times you preach to them or tell them what they ought to be doing. They're looking at what are you doing, and
Absolutely.
an example to live out in front of him. And I know he went to school for music and everything.
Hmm.
My goodness.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times our children will take even our dream, just like Solomon did in the Bible with David, will take it
Yes.
further than
Yes.
what we
Yes.
may have even imagined for ourselves. And that's why
Absolutely.
we have to dream for them and ask them to
Absolutely.
have a dream for themselves, because
Absolutely.
only God can dream a bigger dream for us than we can for ourselves.
So true. So true.
When you look at, like, you have younger children too. So you have,
Hmm.
how many children do you have? Do you mind
I
sharing?
have 6 children total. I have 4 grown children,
Four
and then I
grown
have
children.
yeah, grown, good and
Oh,
grown.
oh.
And then I have 2 younger children, a high schooler, 16-year-old, and then an 8-year-old. Yeah.
What's it been like establishing or sharing with your children, more so reminding them of maybe the man that you were, and even in the errors of your ways, maybe in some instances, because we can't tell them all. Some things they have
Right.
to leave it. Some things I love what you said is some things click when they click, and that
Yeah.
goes for our children too.
Yes.
What's it been like for you to have? I had the same scenario, older children, and my youngest, he'll be 22 this year. I still can't believe it. Everybody else is in their 30s, right? What's it been like to watch through your own lens yourself parent your younger children with the
Um,
mistakes that maybe you made in the past?
it's definitely a difference in the way that I'm raising, my younger children,
Mhm.
uh, as compared to the older children. Of course, you get older and you get a little more wisdom, and you have that little like, oh, I'd probably do a little things different, and
Mhm.
you would because you get older, and if if we're trying to be better in life, you should grow, and in that growing, you find techniques and ways to be better, to be a better parent, to raise children in a more effective way, and God will give you insight. But I think a lot for me, and which was really helpful, was explaining to my older children um, that I wasn't perfect in those times, and that there are things I wish I would have changed. I can remember my middle daughter, Kayla. We were talking about some stuff, and then she's just brought up a time where I had them out at an event, and I was like, "Come on, y'all!" And I knew they had musical skills, but and then people are like, "Your kids are amazingly talented." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, come on, Kayla, sing." And I was just threw her on the spot, and she told me that I used to do that a lot, and I was like, "I did? What do
Mhm.
you mean?" I didn't. I thought it was natural, but those are things that I could play back and look at it and be like, "Oh, maybe all of those times weren't the best opportunities to thrust them into something." So now I definitely don't push anything on my younger kids. If they want to do it, they want to do it. But that's why I said I think it's important to explain as much as you can, because you can't tell everything to your children.
Mhm.
And you can't live in the past. You got to explain some things like, hey, I was wrong in these instances, and these are ways that I wish I could change some things, but I can't. But in those, you have to really understand that God is not only forming you, but He's forming them, and
Yes,
He's
yes.
doing great things in them, in
Mhm.
spite of what we would look at as shortcomings, and slip ups or falls or or anything, God will use all of that to benefit and for his good, not just for you, but for your children as well.
I love that because sometimes people have propensities to tell us we're behind the eight ball on
Hmm.
something or what we woulda, shoulda, coulda, and only if we oughta. And really, that's like saying you don't believe Romans 8:28, that it's all going to work for my good.
That's right.
So
That's right.
either you believe that or you don't. And so
That's
I am
absolutely.
I believe it. So I might look like I'm behind to you, but I'm right on time when it comes
Hmm.
to God. And the
Hmm.
same rings true for our children. I always like to ask that question because I know for myself, just personally, I see things differently as an older parent. A lot
Absolutely.
of times when we're younger, our first set of children, I like to call them, they kind of grow up with us,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
They grow up with us. Our faith is strengthened while we're being lengthened in our parenthood. And at the same time, their faith is being built too. And so, but when we have another chance at it, I now understand why what people say about the grandchildren, how the grandchildren get the best parent. Because you already been to the rodeo.
Right.
already
Absolutely.
had it, you already
Absolutely.
had a round at it. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
but the kids are so different. They're so different, and your children are so unique and blessed and just really gifted when it comes to the bond that you've been able to create with them. And I ask this question because not everybody have good relationships with their parents, Ronnie. I
Hmm.
mean, you know that.
Yeah.
Uh, you can speak to if you had a great relationship with your parents, and if you did, or if you didn't, what has been the greatest lesson you learned with as a parent that you now use as a part of your parenting?
Um, the greatest thing, I mean, I had amazing parents that uh as much as they were on me, they were hard on me. But they let me learn, and when I got old enough to kind of when I was older, teenager and a young adult, they let me learn. They were like, "All right, you're going to have to learn some lessons and learn some things. We can teach you, we can tell you, we can do all this, but at the end, you have to learn the lessons and you have to go through your life and live this life for yourself." So I think one of the valuable things that I've taken, from their leadership and my parents is let your children grow up. You have to let them grow up and still kind of, be there and be a sounding board, sometimes be a safety net. But most of the time, you have to let them live their life. And that's kind of what I've taken from them. I allow my children to live their life. Um, I don't micromanage their lives and what are you doing here? None of that. It's just they're grown and
Mhm.
it was hard when they're young adults because you still want to, I got something to say, but at the end of the day, um, they have to learn life for themselves, and they have their own challenges and their own experiences that they've got to go through, and you've just got to be there for them. And sometimes it's not necessarily holding their hand or carrying them through the situation. Sometimes it's just letting them know that you're there for support, but they're going to have to walk it for themselves.
Well, I like to believe that you are definitely encouraging some men that are listening tonight because, the whole point is that, I like to say when I think about our men, when I think about men of color, a lot of folks will say, okay, well, you haven't really brought on any other descents yet. Not
Mhm.
yet. I will. But right now, the fire, we're going to put our attention on where the fire is. And the fire
Right.
is for our men of color.
Amen.
And I love that. That's definitely one of my hardest lessons as a parent is with my youngest son is giving him the freedom to figure life out. And I think
Mhm.
that when you're younger and you're raising your children, it sounds to me like you had great examples. So you were kind of able to allow them to be free and to discover the things that they like and maybe the things that they don't like. So it sounds to me like you've been able to do that royally. Before we switch gears and go into, I want to talk about the new project and all that.
Right.
When it comes to success and even the boundaries when it comes to your family, have you had trouble establishing boundaries by letting it be known when it comes to success and or the business aspect of music? Have you found it a struggle sometimes? And if so, where when it comes to the boundaries when it comes to my family and success?
Um, I think when I was younger, I definitely had problems with those boundaries because the boundaries were always moving. They were moving obstacles because the more success I thought I had to have created um, opportunities for me to change the boundaries. Well, if I want to get here, I got to do more of this, which would be okay, a lot more sacrifice on the family or whatever that would be.
Mhm.
So the goal would the boundaries or that line would change. I would move that because I I need to establish or get to this level. So in order to do that, it's okay to
Yeah.
move this, or it's okay for me to for me not to execute this over here because I'm doing that over there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And a lot of those times when those boundaries are moving, then you never have a grasp on what you want to do because the next thing is always the best thing,
Yeah.
or the best thing is always the greatest thing, and everything else gets tossed to the side.
Mm.
When you establish, hard boundaries where, okay, this is the time allotted that I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
or no matter of success is going to take me away from fulfilling this commitment that I've made. Um, no a project that comes along is
Mhm.
going to stop me from doing this or being here for my children at this particular event. Those things are hard because you give up a lot. You give up a whole lot when the hard boundaries are able to move at any time.
My God, that's a whole word right there. That the
Mhm.
boundaries move. They
Yeah.
definitely do. And
And we move them because we feel we have the right because we created the boundaries, so why I should be able to move the boundaries. But obviously you created those boundaries so that they can keep you in line to the framework that you've established.
mm,
But a lot of the times once you're growing, especially for me when I was growing in my career and growing and getting better and more recognition, those
yeah,
boundaries changed because I was like, I'm growing, so naturally the boundaries have to grow too.
yeah, yeah,
But hard boundaries should probably stay hard boundaries. And a lot of times if and this goes to get back to the communication thing, when you're not communicating and you are just kind of just moving and going, then it's hard to have an accountability for the things that you're doing. And when you're moving boundaries, it turns into, well, why are you doing this? Oh, because I can and I have to.
right.
Instead of, well, these are lines that we weren't going to cross, or we're not do this, or we're going to be dedicated to this and what we've established. That kind of goes out the window with what you have are said opportunities. So
I
you got to be
love that.
careful.
When it comes to boundaries, I always think about boundaries are not just a good idea, they're a God idea. God has
Indeed.
boundaries.
Hmm.
And I always tell my kids or anybody that'll listen, even clients sometimes, there's never anything wrong with having a mind or a thought life that goes beyond the boundaries, but you still have to establish them. Otherwise, you're going to have chaos because
Yes.
you try to hang outside the lines for a long time and see what happens. You're gonna have some chaos, or you're gonna have some consequences that may have taken you too far to recover from. Um,
Absolutely.
I want to just ask, as we shift gears and thinking about what really makes Ronnie come alive when it comes to ministry, when it comes to music, and even in business with the marketplace of what you're doing.
Hmm.
What part of the music industry really makes you come alive outside the techie part you just told us about? What makes
Um,
you come alive today?
for me, it's still the creative aspect of music and the places that you can take it. Um, it's kind of a pet peeve for me that everybody copies and, oh, we need to do music this way because it's hot, or it's this is the fad, or this is how they're doing music now. I never understood that. That was always a thing to me that it was like, well, why would you copy and do that? If you're copying this song and doing that because this was a hit and this is the way, or this was the model or the mold that created that hit, so we all should do that. I was just totally against that and never did understand that
Mm,
because there's so much creativity in the world
yeah.
that everything is unique. So uniquely, you should be able to create just whatever you're doing, and it should stand on its own. Um, so for me, I think it's the creative aspect in music and where you can take it. You can be writing something off of what you're feeling in the time being. If you're feeling up and you're excited about something, you write something, that's exciting and celebratory, or you feeling down in the dumps and it's sad, and you can write something out of pain
Yep.
as well. But I think that aspect of being able to create in the moment of where you are and how you feel is wonderful. And I think beyond that, for me to create from a space that you're not in is wonderful. I've written a lot of songs in spaces that I was not. I've written songs of "Though He Slay Me, I Will Trust Him." I was writing that from a place where that sounds great. I think I'm gonna kill him with this one. Though he slay me, I would trust him. And then I had to be slain.
Well,
And then
well.
and now am I gonna trust? But I mean, those are things that you have to experience. But those are also special moments that you have, and
Yeah.
special places to be, where you're writing about something that you haven't experienced yet, and then you have to live through that thing. So that's very, very interesting, and I found that to be very exciting.
The cost of the oil, for sure.
Oh,
Cost of the oil. My goodness.
absolutely,
My goodness.
absolutely.
You don't get goodness out of nothing. It's
That's
gonna
right.
cost you something.
Let's
I
be
want to switch
pressed.
gears for a few minutes. I
Okay,
can't believe our time has gone so fast.
it's gone. Yes, it's moving.
My goodness. Okay, so I've got to talk about the fact that I looked up one day and saw you on a movie. I mean, I think you've been in a couple, but you all, I gotta say this. Ronnie here again is a Grammy Award winner, and he's so humble. Can you all see that? But listen, I looked up and saw Kev on Stage had a movie or has a
Mm,
series program, and I
mm,
saw Ronnie was being featured in the film. So let's
yeah.
talk about that. How did you find yourself in the movie with Kev on Stage? You all friends, or how'd that work out?
Well, it's almost a crazy story, but the more you tell it, the more natural it feels.
Okay.
So Kev and I, we grew up together. We grew up together in El Paso, Texas, in the
Okay.
same church. So his parents and my parents knew each other way before we were born. So we were like pew babies, and I was really close with his brother. His
Mm.
brother passed away almost 2 years now,
Oh wow.
and real suddenly. And me and his brother were really close. We were like pretty much best friends and business partners, and we did a lot of work together.
Okay.
And over the past, now it's been almost 10, 15 years,
Wow.
we've always talked about projects and always casted vision. We
Yeah.
talked about big things to do. We talked about, man, what it be like to build a sound stage and, have our own and do this and build shows. And we talked about shows and branding and marketing, and
Yeah.
we talked about ideas and vetting shows and how to pitch shows and how to build,
Mhm.
decks and projects. And Churchy came about just from that. We were talking about all kind of different projects that we worked on in the past, and
Yeah.
and then it and then future projects that we wanted to work on. And it was kind of a montage of pulling things together. And
Hmm.
then one day Kev was like, I'm just gonna do a show. And
Okay.
we're like, okay, well, cool. What you gonna do now? You're gonna do it. I'm gonna do a and of course we didn't have a name for it. He's like, I'm gonna do a churchy show, and I'm gonna just talk about what I know, which is church. And if you notice, Kevin talks a lot about church and how he grew up.
Yes, I
He
know.
is talking, he is legit talking about a lot of the stuff he's saying, and the backdrops are about the church we grew up in El Paso. So
Wow.
it's really
Wow.
funny. So, but a lot of the storylines and will come from that, from just different stuff. But yeah, so it's
That's
pretty much just casting vision into stuff that you want to see, and then just having the fortitude to walk it out. And so
yeah.
I admire Kev that, he was just like, I'm really gonna do it. And he did it.
Yeah, he
And he
did.
really put up, he was in on, the not just the creative side of it,
Right.
but the
Mhm.
writing and
Right.
and the
Yeah.
casting
Executive
and the
producing.
budgeting, and he
Yeah.
put down his own money, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
really worked hard at it. And I was just fortunate to, kind of be in the background of,
Yeah.
doing a few different things and, helping cast some of that vision and then working, in some of the music aspects of it. So very fortunate. And he said something at the premiere of the show, the BET premiere of his show. He said, sometimes we dream and we don't believe that the dreams will come true. He's like, what happens if they really do? And that
Right.
got me to really thinking like,
Wow.
we sell ourselves short a
Mm.
lot. And
So
this was just a perfect opportunity for one of those dreams to come alive and take wings, and it's taken off and had great success. So excited
that
about
is a tremendous story. Now, I didn't expect it to be that good. My goodness. So let me, when you think about just talking about what we think about, we bring about, right? And
it.
also looking at to think big, bigger than what you could have ever imagined, because God
Right,
promises us that we can do that. We can
right.
think beyond what we could. God will do for us what we could imagine or even think. And
Absolutely.
when you look at the reality of something that you all thought about for years, it might have been off and on, and people probably called you all kinds of things as you were thinking big. What was it like for you in that moment to see that manifest in reality for him? To see it come to fruition, and not only that, you actually be able to be a part of it.
Seeing that come to fruition was kind of magical.
Yeah,
And I say magical, I don't mean like woo.
I know.
I
I'm with
mean
you.
just it was special
Hmm.
because we talk about a lot of things and we put our resources and our energy into to trying to do a lot of things, and a lot of those times things don't pan out like we want them to.
Hmm.
And that's just, some people call it trial and error, some people may call it whatever, this or that. But I think it's important to push the dreams and the things that are on your heart to go for it, and you learn in the process. Some stuff will work, some stuff won't work. And I think it's important that you take those things that do work and refine it, whether it's a talent in writing a song, or whether it's a dream of writing a show and releasing it and putting it out for the world,
Hmm.
just like Kev did. So to
Yeah,
me it was special to see that happen, because he created something that was unique to what he knew about, and
yeah.
unique to what his skill set was. And then he just grabbed a lot of people, friends and families and people that he's worked with over the years. And it
Mhm.
was like, okay, how do we make this possible? And everybody had to buy in to the dream that he had. And I
Yeah.
think it was just a kind of a perfect storm. Everybody was on board. Everybody bought in, not knowing that the outcome. We didn't know, like, hey, BET's on the line to pick up this show.
To
It
pick
was
it up,
nothing like that. Nah, it
right?
wasn't nothing like that. It was like, let's create something great. Let's have fun doing it,
Yeah,
and let's have a great time, and let's hang out. Let's have fun. And
yeah.
I'm sure for him it was a different experience, because he was putting down money.
Right.
It's good to hang out and have fun and do this, and it's great. It's a different experience when it's your money.
Yeah,
So my hat goes off to him. But just to see the success that he's having, and the
yeah,
opportunities that a lot of us that help participate are having, because of that he stepped out, and stepped out on a project, and stepped out in faith, and pursued something that was on his heart. It's great to be a part of, and it's great to see.
yeah. That's wonderful that you're able to witness that and continue to be a part of it. And the real side of it also is that we know with all of the great projects, many things that we do in life, when it comes to relationships, since we're talking about meaningful relationships, you all were able to sustain a relationship through the ebbs and flows over the last 15 years, almost 2 decades.
Right.
What about when those relationships fall off? I mean, I'm sure you had to experience some relationships while you're building, while you're being established, while you're being equipped, and God is advancing you towards success. What about as the relationships fall off? How have you handled that?
Um, it's hard. It's hard because, especially for a person like me, I'm very regimented, over and over, same thing. I like that. I like comfortability in knowing what I'm going to be getting into, and it's going to stay there and be lasting. But a lot of times when you're building things, it's not like that.
Yeah.
If you watch a structure go up, There's
Yeah.
all kind of things that happens in building structures. There's not only the structure goes up, but there's things that go up to help hold the structure together.
The
And
scaffolding.
yes, the scaffolding.
Mhm.
There's things that hold beams up and things to support
Yeah.
until the structure can hold itself. And when the structure is able to hold itself, then those things are removed. They either fall off or they're removed. If you watch a rocket take off, or one of the NASA experiments, and they go up in this big rocket, they
Yeah.
have those things that are the thrusters, and they shoot the rocket up, and they fall off after a while. You have to realize that many things fall off. There's relationships that fall off. There's things that we thought were great opportunities. They fall off and go to the wayside because they're only meant to take you to a certain place.
Right.
And when you realize that, okay, some relationships and some opportunities or some things are meant to catapult me from this place to this place, and then after that, there's another thing that's going to carry me, or there's another thing that's going to take me, or I may sustain and hold on my own.
Yeah.
But you can't get lost in what you have and the relationships that you lose. You just have to pray about who's coming into your life, and how they can balance and better your life, and how you can, of course, do the same for them. But not all relationships are forever, and you've got to learn to adjust and trust God that He's going to not only bring those relationships and those things in your life to help you in those times that you need them, but that He's going to give you peace to know that when those times and those relationships end, that it was for good, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It's just season and time and opportunity and shift. And there's some things that were good in this season that don't happen in this season.
My God, that's so good. My goodness, because relationships, they're gonna have their ups and downs, and I just believe the beauty
Absolutely.
of life is that as God takes us from on our journey from blessing to blessing, from place to place, He also uses those as opportunities where we have to exercise wisdom on what does our
Absolutely.
next look like. So I'm gonna
Absolutely.
ask you a couple other questions as we
Okay.
wrap up. You have a new CD.
I do.
I was thrilled when I found out that Bishop Alexis Thomas was up
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! I heard it this morning. Man, I had to keep myself from crying. I got a little bit
Uh,
emotional, and
Awesome.
I always think about one of the phrases I always think about here is "angels go to work."
Hmm.
And did not realize that that was going to be on the project. So tell us
Hmm.
a little bit about this new project that you released just a couple months ago almost. And
Yep.
I know you've got some other stuff coming. So tell us about the CD project. How did it come to life, and what we should expect from it next.
Oh well, I'm super excited about this project. I recorded it originally back in 2018, and it was definitely a passion project of mine. And when I started working on it, it was during a time where Bishop had passed away, and I was already going to record a project and was working on a record, but during that time, I really felt compelled and a big push to really work on it and finish it. And within a matter of months, I went to building a small community choir into recording a full on project within 6 months. And during that time, it was challenging because you're going through life transitions. I was going through, of course, grief and trying to transition to the next thing in life. And during this time, God was flooding my heart with all kind of things, flooding my heart with music and songs and lyrics. And during that time, I didn't know that he was protecting me. He was building a arc of safety around me while I was working on this project. So I recorded it back in 2018, and I had a great opportunity to really work on it for a couple of years. I'm a stickler for that whole technical side. I want to get my hands in on everything. So I really worked really hard, almost day and night, for a couple of years on what it sounded like, because I wanted the essence of this record to sound just like it was then. Um, so it came out very raw, authentic. I didn't want it to come off too polished and overdubbed and do all that because I've mixed a ton of records in my life, but I thought it was um, important to maintain the integrity of where the project was when we recorded it. So I worked on it for a few years, and then last month was, or at the end of March was the release date, and we're excited to put it out. And it's called Passion, uh, Purpose, Passion, or Passion, Purpose, or Lord Jesus, uh, Purpose, Passion, and Desire.
Yeah.
So, and I called the choir that their acronym was PPD, but it stands for Purpose, Passion, and Desire. So I'm
Right.
real excited about it. It's got phenomenal music, and I'm even more excited that in the next uh, few weeks, a month or so, we're going to be releasing along with the record, the visual record for that. So it's very unique. So you want to stay tuned for that. It's pretty exciting, pretty creative. So I'm excited for that to drop next. But yeah, please go out, download it. It's on everywhere,
Yeah.
all of your digital outlets. Your Spotify, Apple Music. Anywhere you go get music, you can find it. It'll be Ronnie Jones and Passion, Purpose, and Desire.
And we'll make sure that the links are also included so that you
Oh,
all don't
beautiful.
miss out on getting connected. I can't wait to hear and learn more about the visual aspect that's coming. Couple questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's your favorite artist, male or female, alive or not?
Oh, my favorite?
I know it's hard.
That is such a loaded question.
Okay, I'll give you two. You can pick two.
Two. Um,
Okay, maybe three. I'll give you three. Maximum
Favorite
three
artist.
favorite artists of all time, alive or not.
All time alive or not? Okay. He's an artist, but he's more of a producer. Um, I would say a lot of people may not know him. His name is Tommy Sims. Amazing producer, creative mind is just incredible. Um, a lot of my artists are going to be producers. Is that okay? I
Whatever.
just
Look,
okay.
it's
I
yours.
would say Quincy Jones.
Yes,
Quincy Jones is
phenomenal.
he's phenomenal because he just takes and because that's what I love too. Just the opportunity to work with different musicians and
Yeah.
artists and create not just something that you want to do or how you hear it, but to develop an idea that somebody brings you
Mm.
and to craft it with somebody is just phenomenal to me. So I would say those two are kind of my top of the Mount Rushmore for me.
Now, Ronnie, I'm not a musician, but I got to tell you right
Mhm.
now, I'm feeling like I might want to create something.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's
I
get in
mean,
there and open up a couple tracks and see what we got.
I've done a lot of things in my lifetime. Music is not one of them.
Come on, you can hop on the track. Listen, you ain't even got to be musical these days. I mean, you can make a record off anything. It don't even matter. You have no musical talent, you can have a hit record. I don't know how it happens like that,
Our
bro.
audience might not remember, but they might know. Milli Vanilli is the first thing that comes to my mind. Blame it on the rain.
Too funny. Too funny.
But I don't
I
know.
love it.
I'm feeling inspired. I
I
might
love it.
do something. I don't know.
Hey, get it.
I might. I'm going. I'm feeling something, Lord. I gotta ask the Lord, make sure it's coming from the right place.
I love it.
I'm really inspired, like seriously, because
You
you just
should.
sometimes we just never think big enough.
Right.
There are
Right.
doors that open that would have never opened had we never thought bigger beyond
Absolutely.
our feeble thinking. So let me
Absolutely.
ask you this. I ask everybody this question, and I'm just always encouraged and inspired even by it. What would you say in your lifetime
Mhm.
is the lesson that took you the longest to learn when it comes to relationships?
That you don't have as much time as you think you do.
Mm, mm, mm.
And that I always knew time didn't stop, but I always thought I had enough time to figure things out. Um, do it later. somewhat of a procrastination spirit, but you always, for me, it was, I always think I have time. I have time to get this together. I have time to work it out. I have time. And you really don't. Time is of the essence. And, people say the time is now. That's not from a place of being frantic and, oh, I got to hurry up and do, because I'm running out of time. But it's no, realize that every moment that you have is precious, and it's allotted in only so much amount of time that you have. Um, we think we're going to live, yeah, not forever, but we think we're going to live for a long time, and that everything that's connected to us is going to have that same amount of time. And that's not the case. So you have to maximize what God has given you. You have to maximize the time that you have and the opportunities that you have, and realize that you don't have as much time as you do to do the things that you would want to do in life. So if God puts it on your heart to do, go for it. Do it, and don't waste time thinking about, oh, should I, or oh, is this good enough, or am I good enough, or will people like it, or am I strong enough to go through this, or do I have enough empathy to love somebody, or whatever the case is. You don't have as much time as you think you do.
Wow. That in itself says it all. We
Hmm.
just don't. And we don't I like to say everything has an expiration date. But
Oh
the
yeah,
thing is we don't know what it is. So well, Ronnie, I gotta tell you, this has been a delight. My goodness.
it
It's been
has. It has. It went so fast. I was like, oh,
great
I
things
enjoyed it.
happen like that. They do, don't
Indeed, I
I
appreciate you, and love the work that you're doing. This is phenomenal. You're bringing people on here of quality, and it's just good. Always good to hear stories, and you're doing it, out of passion. You can see your heart's desire to not only listen to people and pull things out, but to bring something to the world that only you can do. So thank you for this time and this opportunity, and I'm praying for you always, and continue to do your thing. And when you're ready, I'll
hey,
open up a couple tracks for you and let's get it. You
listen,
know?
don't threaten me with a good don't threaten me with a good time. No. Listen, all you get everything that we just talked about tonight. Oh my goodness.
Ah,
Don't do it. But
I
listen,
love it.
don't be surprised. But again, I do
Okay.
thank you. It's been my delight and my privilege to have you tonight in the
Absolutely.
bullpen. And I will see you again and very, very
Absolutely.
soon. And we're praying for
Absolutely.
you just as you're praying for us.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Now, look, I don't know about you, but that was tremendous for me. So, you all already know I definitely have something to say when it comes to what is my wealth theory tonight. Ronnie dropped so many powerful gems on us, and I'm just going to give you a couple of my highlights. And the first thing that comes to my mind is he said, "Just don't be afraid to start." I mean, come on, get out of the boat, get out of the boat, Peter. Do something. Don't just sit around. Now, I know that the show is designed for men, and you all already know. All the nosy women are watching too, so you all don't sit around. Don't sit around. Don't sit on your do nothing and do nothing. Do something. And one of the other things that he said that I really found powerful is that he said it doesn't click until it clicks. Now let that sit. It doesn't click until it clicks, and that's for everybody, no matter male or female. So stop wasting time and give people some grace. So we're talking about meaningful relationships this whole season. So don't waste time because time is of the essence. And I do hope that you've enjoyed yourself tonight because if you didn't, I certainly did. I want to encourage you also to be sure to go over to the Bullpen Facebook group with me, Camille Nash, the redhead. That's where you're going to get all connect to all of our guests, those people that have been in the bullpen already, and all the guests that are forthcoming, so you can stay connected to everything that they're doing. And you all do me a favor, don't forget to go download Ronnie Jones music. You'll be doing yourself a treat to do that. And make sure that you don't miss not one moment of anything going on in the bullpen. Again, it's been my privilege, it's been my delight to serve you in this way. Now, you all know, like I say, don't keep it to yourself. Don't be greedy. Take the things that you've learned tonight and go and share it with someone else so that they can run with it and let their life be unrecognizable. And I'll see you in the very next episode of The Bullpen. You all have a wonderful night.